period, 63 BCE 70 CE. After Pompey's conquest of Judea in 63 BCE, Hyrcanus II assumed the role of ethnic. However, his advisor Antipater was ruler in practice and managed the kingdom's affairs. Some cities which were reconquered by the Hasmoneans were removed from Judean rule, including Azotus, Jaffa and Samaria, as well as Scythopolis and several cities in Transjordan, which formed the semi-autonomous Decapolis. Hyrcanus II's rule was unstable. Alexander II, Aristobulus II's son, raised a large army and seized Jerusalem, forcing Hyrcanus to leave the city. The Roman general Aulus Gabinius invaded Judea in retaliation, sent Hyrcanus back to Jerusalem, and reinstated him as high priest. When Caesar's civil war broke out, Julius Caesar attempted to install Aristobulus on the throne. However, Aristobulus was poisoned and his son Alexander, who was preparing to support him, was beheaded at Antioch at the command of Pompey. Antipater and his sons Phasael and Herod gained status and power at the expense of the Hasmonean dynasty's waning power. When the Parthians invaded the area in 40 BCE, they installed Antigonus II Mattathias, Aristobulus II's youngest son, as king. Phasael committed suicide, and Hyrcanus II was taken as a prisoner to Babylon after having his ear severed in order to prevent him from ever acting as high priest again. Herod, who fled the Parthians, found his way to Mark Antony, who then controlled the eastern part of the Roman Republic. In agreement with his co-ruler Augustus, who controlled the western part, the two decided to appoint Herod as king of Judea, and sent him with an army to seize the throne. In 37 BCE, Jerusalem was taken after a siege, and Antigonus was captured and executed. Herodian dynasty. In 37 to 36 BCE, Herod the Great was appointed king of the Jews by the Roman Senate. The kingdom of Judea during his period is also referred to as the Herodian kingdom. As a close and loyal ally to the Romans, Herod extended his rule as far as Arabia and the Huron. Herod undertook many colossal building projects, including fully rebuilding the Second Temple and expanding the Temple Mount, and founding Caesarea Maritima as a major port city. Herod also constructed the enclosure around the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron, the fortress at Masada, and Herodium. The Herodian kingdom under Herod experienced a period of growth and expansion. After Herod's death in 4 BCE, the kingdom was partitioned to several parts to each of his 3 sons, initially 4 parts, forming the Tetrarchy. The central part of the Tetrarchy was given to Herod Archelaus, including Judea proper, Idumea and Samaria. Herod's death in 4 BCE caused the release of built-up frustrations of the people who were suppressed by his brutality. Many people were impoverished because of Herod's high taxes and spending. When he died, his building projects that once allowed for job opportunities were stopped, and many people lost their jobs. This built up frustrations that ultimately contributed to the causes of the First Jewish-Roman War. 65. Roman Judea. In 6 CE, the country fell into unrest, and the Herodian ruler of Judea was deposed in favor of forming the new Judea province under direct Roman rule. 66. The Roman province of Judea extended over parts of former regions of the Hasmonean and Herodian kingdoms. It was created in 6 CE with the census of Quirinius and merged into Syria Palestina after 135 CE. Jerusalem reached a peak in size and population during the late Second Temple period. 67, 68. The majority of scholars estimate that city's population at that time to have been between 70,000 and 100,000. 69, 70. 71, 72, Herod II ruled Iturea and Trachonitis until his death in 34 CE when he was succeeded as Tetrarch by Herod Agrippa I. who had previously been ruler of Chalcis. Agrippa surrendered Chalcis to his brother Herod and ruled in Philip's stead. On the death of Herod Antipas in 39 CE, Herod Agrippa became ruler of Galilee. Reconstruction of Herod's temple. Reconstruction of Herod's temple in the Holy Land model of Jerusalem port of Caesarea Maritima. The port of Caesarea Maritima Herodium. Herodium, a palace fortress built by Herodotus, and in 41 CE, as a mark of favor by the Emperor Claudius, succeeded the Roman prefect Marullus as ruler of Judea. The era from roughly 4 BCE to 33 CE is also notable as being the time period when Jesus of Nazareth should have lived, primarily in Galilee under the reign of Herod Antipas. It is therefore considered in specifically Jewish history as being when Christianity arose as a messianic sect from within Second Temple Judaism. First Jewish-Roman War. In 66 CE, the Jews of Judea rose in revolt against Rome, sparking the First Jewish-Roman War, 66 to 73 CE, also known as the Great Jewish Revolt. Flavius Josephus, a contemporary Jewish historian who fought as the commander of Jewish forces in Galilee but later defected to the Roman side, chronicled the events of the war in his book The Jewish War. The hill where ancient Yodfat stood, the ruins of Gamla, stone piles near the western wall thought to have been enthroned by Roman legionaries during the destruction of the Second Temple. Vespasian, an experienced Roman general, was sent by Emperor Nero to crush the rebellion. He arrived at Ptolemy along with legions Ex Cretensis and V Macedonica. There he was joined by his son Titus, who arrived from Alexandria at the head of Legio 15 Apollinaris, as well as by the armies of various local allies including that of King Agrippa II. During the Galilee campaign, many towns surrendered without a fight, and others were taken by force. Yodfat, a fortified town in the Lower Galilee, was besieged for 47 days before it fell to treachery. The city was razed, many people were killed, and the rest were enslaved. Gamla, the major Jewish stronghold in the Golan Heights, fell after a 1-month siege. Following a lull in military operations caused by civil war and political turmoil in Rome, Vespasian was summoned to Rome and appointed emperor. In early 70 CE, Titus moved to besiege Jerusalem, the center of rebel resistance in Judea. The city had been taken over by several rebel factions following a period of massive unrest and the collapse of a short-lived provisional government. The first 2 walls of Jerusalem were breached in 3 weeks, but the Roman army was unable to breach the third and thickest wall due to a stubborn rebel standoff. According to Josephus, a contemporary historian and the main source for the war, the city was ravaged by murder, famine and cannibalism. 73, on Tisha B'Av, 70 CE, the 30th of August, 74, Roman forces finally overwhelmed the defenders and set fire to the temple. 75, resistance continued for another month, but eventually the upper and lower parts of the city were taken as well, and the city was burned to the ground. Titus spared only the 3 towers of the Herodian citadel as a testimony to the city's former.
Yes, I have to read it again because I cannot use my cell phone and listen to this. But let's read from, I don't know where. My cell phone keep ringing. I have to look again. Yes, let's try again.
Map of the Hasmonean Kingdom expanded to its greatest extent, now including the coastal plain, the northern Negev, and western parts of Transjordan. 6, 4, 5. Janeu's dual role as king and high priest, his inclination towards the Sadducees. The high cost of the wars in both money and lives threatened the governmental balance and sparked opposition to his rule, resulting in the Judean Civil War, which Janneus brutally suppressed. Salome Alexandra, R76-67 BCE, Janneus' widow, ascended to power. Following her husband's death. Under her rule, the priesthood was separated from the other powers of government for the first time since the rise of the Hasmoneans. Salome appointed her son, Hyrcanus II, as high priest and his brother, Aristobulus II as army commander, and pursued a moderate, mostly defensive policy that included the formation of a large and deterring army. Her 9-year reign is described as one of peace and economic prosperity, during which the country recovered from wars. The Queen clearly supported the Pharisees, even allowing them to persecute and punish the Sadducees. Her rule had a distinct Hellenistic flavor, as there was no tradition of female rule in Judah. Hasmonean kings attempted to revive the Judah described in the Bible, a Jewish monarchy ruled from Jerusalem and including all territories once ruled by David and Solomon. In order to carry out this project, the Hasmoneans forcibly converted neighbor nations to Judaism. 63. Some scholars argue that the Hasmonean dynasty institutionalized the final Jewish biblical canon. 64. Hasmonean Civil War. After Salome Alexander died in 67 BCE, Hyrcanus II, her older son, was entitled to assume the throne and was already acting as high priest. However, Aristobulus II, her younger son, was more energetic and determined to become king. Aristobulus gathered an army to attack Jerusalem, forcing Hyrcanus to abdicate the crown. The abdication was formally carried out in the temple, and Aristobulus' son, Alexander, married Hyrcanus' daughter, Alexandra. However, Antipater, an Edomite noble who served as Hyrcanus' advisor, convinced him that giving up the throne was a mistake that needed to be undone. Along with Artaxerxes III, king of the Nabateans, these two formed an alliance and together they attacked and besieged Jerusalem. During the same period, Roman general Pompey was in the midst of a campaign in the eastern Mediterranean. After defeating Mithridates